Good morning, Year 9, and a happy Monday. We're starting with a mastery review session today that's, again, looking at a student response and finding 3 ways to fix it. So again, a bit of writing that's indicative that kind of reflects some of the mistakes we make when we're writing. Okay, so just have a read through. If potentially there are more than 3, but I just want you to focus on finding the 3 fixes that you would change immediately to improve this piece of writing, okay? I think that we can be trapped by work when it was all we do, but if we find balance, then work can be good. Okay, so press pause, rewrite this paragraph or this sentence or these sentences to find and fix those technical aspects, those technical errors. Okay, see you in a minute for some suggestions of how we would do that. Okay, so let's just have a little look together. There were the obvious ones and the not so obvious. So absolutely starting at the beginning, we had the obvious need to fix with the capitalization. Okay, so I think that we can be trapped by work. So this is a student who has a clear opinion, which we can credit. It's really good to have that definitive, I think. So giving your opinion, being confident to give your opinion. Okay, we can be trapped by work when it is. Now, interestingly, in this text, there was an example again of that verb tense agreement we've been working on. So identifying where we're using the wrong tense verb for the job that we're doing. So we need to change that to the present tense is. So I think that we can be trapped by work when it is all we do. But if we find balance, then work can be good. So there's the full stop. Now, this is the one that I was testing to see whether you remember. But if we're using but as a hinge word within a sentence, okay, this is a moment in which the whole angle of the sentence changes. We couple it with this comma here. Okay, so it just creates the pause and then the change. So I think that we can be trapped by work when it is all we do, comma. But if we find balance, then work can be good. So it's that relationship between the comma and the but that was new, and that just creates or controls the flow of ideas. Okay, and then we go to a full stop. But if we find balance, then work can be good. Okay, so that's just warming us up. Okay, getting us thinking about some of the aspects that we were looking at last week, which was a bit more extended writing. So again, thank you for the high quality of work we received. It was really good to see people working more independently. We always know that ask to be independent can be a bit scary, but there was some really good work done. So thank you very much. So we know that we're staying within this unit, the importance of theme, and probably we've got this week and maybe one more week after half term. And then we will be looking at a little bit of like assessment, what we can do with this. Okay, so we know if you want a title at this stage, it's the importance of theme. Okay, it is the 8th of February 2021. So it's really important that we just get that title and date set up. It kind of shows the intentionality to do the work as we would in class. So our title and date. Also at this stage, if you're working on screen, it's still important to use that format, that pro forma, title and date, and on paper too. Okay, brilliant. The importance of theme. Now, we're going to track theme across text today, and we're going to show a kind of like focused activity that enables us to identify and track the theme across text. It's almost like when we look for the footprints of animals and we track that way. We're going to look for footprints of ideas across the 2 poems that will show that relationship to the idea of a common teaching point. Okay, that's what our theme is, isn't it? A common teaching point, the common idea that both writers are actually contributing, although they're doing it in very seemingly different ways. Okay, so to help us, we have now looked at 2 poems. Now, both of these poems are what we call modern texts. Okay, Mark Slaughter, Simon Armitage, all writing within the past kind of 10, 20 years. Okay, so for us in the grand scale or the grand landscape of literature, that's modern. Okay, so, and both poems, so both self-contained units, both self-contained stories, both self-contained works, so they are complete works. So to help us track the themes across these 2 elements, we're going to use or steal something that we see in maths. We're almost going to use a Venn diagram to help us organize these two poems. Now, what I need you to do in a minute is to create this. I know if you're working online, you can grab and draw down two circles from the shape section if you're using a Word document. If you're working in your books, again, I'm not saying go get a compass, but create two circles. But the important bit is this overlap for the work we're going to do together in a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to think about each poem separately. So we're going to name one work, sleep. We're going to name the other, so it gives me the hitcher. Okay, now I'm going to initially give you the information that I want you to populate your two circles with. Okay, so I'm about to show you some words and phrases from the poem. One will either be definitively from work, sleep, or the hitcher, so there won't be any confusion. Okay, so you're fired, he screams. Now, would you populate that into work, sleep, or the hitcher? You're finished, fired. Is that a line from work, sleep, or the hitcher? I'd been tired, under the weather. Poor neural circuits fizzle and pop. So again, deciding which circle those two go into. Hangman's rope. Let him have it. Odium pounding tedium of my work. The outlook for the day was moderate to fair. Now, I'm not going to ask you to do the tricky part just yet, but what I want you to do is you're going to just pause the screen and I want you to populate your circles with the right information. So on which side would you put our information? Okay, then when you've done that, unpause and I'm going to explain the next part of the task. So that part may be easier than this idea, because the next bit we need to do is think about what overlaps. Now, the overlap could be similar words, but more importantly, there's similar ideas behind these words and phrases that I've asked you to sort. So I'm only going to do one with you, okay? And then I'm going to ask you to look at the others. So if we look at this first one, you're fired, he screams. Was that from work, sleep, or the hitcher? Brilliant. That one is from work, sleep. You're finished, fired is from the hitcher. But actually, what's similar? What links those two seemingly, they're both from separate poems written a decade apart, but what is similar? Brilliant. They're both using the word fired, but what's the idea really? What's the similar idea? For both the speaker in the hitcher and the speaker in work, sleep, where's pressure in their life coming from? Good. Work is creating a negative pressure in their life, a negative impact. So it's putting pressure on them. There's the pressure of being fired. There's the pressure of losing a job. There's the pressure to keep a job. So any words or ideas like that go in that middle section of your diagram. So look at the next groups now. So look at I'd been tired, under the weather, and poor neural circuits fizzle and pop. What's the similar idea that kind of overlaps between those two quotes? Now, not all of the quotes will have similar words or ideas. It's just to get you thinking, can you see a connection? Now, they get more challenging. So on this side of my screen, you're fired and I've been tied under the weather. The words, the similarity, the link is more obvious. The other side, hangman's rope and let him have it. The odium pounding tedium of my work, the outlook for the day was moderate to fair, are harder. They're trickier to spot. Now, that doesn't mean don't take on the challenge. That doesn't mean don't go for it. But again, you're going to pause the screen in a minute and you're going to populate the middle of your diagram with any similar words or ideas. Now, if you want, this is the stage, again, increasing your ability to be independent. You can look back. Oh, it's going to go real slow, sorry, at the poems slide and actually see, are there any other things that you think are linking these two poems today? But I would like you, after about 5 minutes, so don't give yourself longer than 5 minutes, okay, to have populated, to I've gone too fast. Oh no, technology is to populate that middle section, okay, with the ideas. Sorry, my dog went mad. With the ideas that you think create the connection, that are seemingly similar words and ideas, okay, because that's going to give us our theme. This is how we track our theme. Brilliant. Look forward to seeing your ideas in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to show you what mine looks like. Now yours does not have to look exactly the same, but it's to help us if we get a few ideas stuck. Okay, so I've said that work, it has a negative impact on people's lives. So in both these poems, you're fired, you're finished. There's an idea of that negative impact, that work puts people under stress, under pressure. Work is a trap. It makes people feel powerless. Now, that was one I was thinking about, not necessarily from an individual quote here, but the overall message, isn't it, of each of these poems, is we've got poems where the work is trapping people. Looking at the poor neural circuits, that's the posh word for brain, if you remember, this idea that your brain is fizzling and popping. And over here, I've been tired under the weather. The idea that maybe work makes you ill, it creates stress, it damages your way of thinking, it damages how you see and think about the world. Now, this one, it leads to violent thoughts and actions. Now, in work sleep, it exists really within the violent thoughts. It doesn't really translate into a violent action, but the guy does think about escaping work, almost, and links it to something quite violent. He links it to the hangman's rope, which we looked at and said that was a form of punishment. So in work sleep, there's violent thoughts. That work maybe changes the way you're thinking. It takes you to a drastic kind of dangerous place. And in the Hitcher, it does actually come out as a violent action. I let him have it, where he actually attacks people. Now, you might have put other things in there that work kind of makes you, or work is part of everyday life. The odium pounding tedium of my work. The outlook for the day was moderate to fair. Both of these kind of suggest that work is part of a normal day. So although work is a trap and it makes people feel powerless, it's part of everyday life. It's part of our lives. Now, every time I look at this, and I think I should go back and change it, because the word really as well for me, and I keep forgetting to write it down for you, is this is about work out of balance, isn't it? When our relationship with work is out of balance, when we give work too much power, too much of our time, when work takes over, it throws the balance off and has these negative impacts. So actually, I would just maybe amend that. It has a negative impact on people's lives when our relationship to work is out of balance. And we hear that, don't we, a lot, work-life balance. I'm hearing it a lot in lockdown, how to maintain a healthy work-life balance. I'm sure parents are. But we know how important that is. Okay, so we've got work-life balance, maybe, that I would add on to that bottom one, that it has a negative impact on people's lives. Okay. I'm just going to move me to there because I'm getting funny glare on my glasses. So we're going to look at our third text. Now, we are going in a new direction today. There's a little clue here. We're going to be looking at a play and working out what is this play extract trying to teach us about the way we work? What is the outcome, and what is that meant to teach us? And that's what we're going to focus on this week. We're going to focus on an extract from this powerfully beautiful play. Now, write down for me as a subheading, Death of a Salesman. Now, Death of a Salesman is a 1949 play written by the American playwright Arthur Miller. Now, I would like you to make a note of this right away, and this information, that it was written in 1949 and that the playwright's name is Arthur Miller. Now, little known fact, you might know, somebody in your house might know, Arthur Miller was married to Marilyn Monroe, a really beautiful kind of Hollywood icon. He wrote other plays, but he was what we would call seminal. So he was a real landmark playwright of his generation. He kind of wrote plays that changed the way people saw the world. His themes and how he tackled his themes changed how people saw and thought about the world. Now, again, just as you're writing this down, just quick kind of anchors in 1949. So guys, what huge event are people still like in the infancy of recovering from? 1949 is going to put us just a few years after what kind of like world event? Good. This is being written just in the wake, if you like, of World War II. So again, people are responding to that huge kind of global event, and playwrights, authors, we remember when we started looking at theme, we talked about how people want to contribute to the bigger conversation of their society. And their society was thinking about big things in 1949. You know, the value of human life, the way that humans can do such things to each other, but also then the value of the individual. What does it mean to be a human? Where's our value coming from? So the other thing just to draw attention to is about an American playwright. The only reason I mention this in advance is some of the names are Americanized, but also kind of dramatized. So using names for dramatic kind of effect as well as the Americanization. So just again, before we look, why have we moved across to a play after looking at poetry is that this is the nature of GCSE, and we just want to mirror in this mini unit that kind of scope of text that you encounter at GCSE. So we have looked at poetry and recognized that poetry are like complete units of meaning. We are only looking at an extract of a play today. We're not looking at the whole play. Okay, so what again that reminds us of then, okay, is how we can approach a play without knowing the beginning, middle, and end of a play today or this week. Okay, and then we're going to end with transactional texts. So these are texts that we would encounter in non-fiction publications. So in other words, journalism, letters, and we're going to look at that to end with after half term. So this week, though, is all about a play. And what I just want to remind you then, what do we say themes are? Themes are key ideas that are being taught to us across multiple texts. And one of the things where we can see a really important theme is different text types tackle that theme. So actually, if we're seeing the same theme being tackled in poetry, but also the play, and then transactional texts are being tackled by journalism, it suggests that this is something that is really playing on people's minds. This is a theme, a way of living, behaving, and acting that different writers across a different set of time zones, time periods, really saying this is really important. We need to look at this differently. Okay, so we're looking at an extract from a play. So I need to just give you this word before we see the extract. So we're just going to write down that requiem is a noun. Okay, and it means a mass for the repose of the souls of the dead. It is an act or token of remembrance. So we'll just kind of work backwards because the second one's actually the easier one to understand. So a requiem is something that is done as an act or token of remembrance. So in other words, something that is done to mark and remember the dead. Okay? But the requiem, the idea of a mass reminds us, or teaches us, that a requiem, then what act or token do we offer to remember the dead? So sometimes it can be a mass or a song. So if you've ever been to a church service, a high church service, or to a Catholic service, maybe around Christmas time, if you have ever done any, or to a wedding, you might have the choir there that sing. Now they sing different types of songs for different occasions to mark different occasions, but the requiem will be sung as part of a mass, as part of the remembrance of the dead. Okay, so it's a song of lamentation, a song of sadness and of grief. It's a way to mark and remember the dead and to honor them. So just give yourself a minute to write that down. And as soon as we see the next page, you'll know why you need that word. Okay, so requiem, an act or token of remembrance, a mass for the repose of the souls of the dead. Okay, so requiem, and there's our key word. It comes up right here. It titles this section of the play. So this section of the play is called requiem, and so we could immediately annotate or just make a note to ourselves. Okay, so that's telling us that this section of the play is a token or an act of remembrance for somebody who's died. Okay, or it's a repose for the souls of the dead. It's a song for the dead. But we're just going to think as well is what makes a play a play. We've moved across from poetry, where we're using words like stanzas and line length and rhyme, into something very different. So what makes a play a play? Number one, A play is a play. No, a play is shaped and structured in a very particular way. It has a very particular form. So in a minute, you're going to write down what makes a play a play. Number one, it has a very particular shape and structure. It is organized into scenes. Those scenes are organized into acts, and the acts can sometimes be titled. Now, every play you encounter will have these first two elements, the scenes and the acts. Okay, so an act will have or be made up of a number of scenes. So traditionally, the Shakespearean structure is a 5-act play, but each act will have various numbers of scenes. So you might have Act 1 with 3 scenes, Act 2 with 5 scenes, Act 3 with 4 scenes. So the truth is you can have various numbers of scenes per act, but all Shakespeare plays follow a 5-act structure. Okay, it follows a particular pattern. Modern plays and Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller would constitute a modern play. It's post-war. Can sometimes follow a different pattern. It won't always follow 5 acts. We study Willie Russell's Blood Brothers in year 10, and that is a play of 2 acts, and it doesn't divide those acts into numbered scenes. So modern playwrights will use different kind of interpretation of the shape and structure, but we do use acts, okay, as to demarcate kind of the structure and shape of a play. If you've ever been to the theatre, there's that lovely moment where they break and we get delicious ice cream, and that is usually at the break between 2 key acts. Now, what writers can then choose to do is give their particular acts, their particular section in the play, a name. So Willie Russell has, that's Blood Brothers. Arthur Miller has chosen to name the final act of his play, the final act, the final scene in his play, Requiem. Okay, he's given it a deliberate name. He's already associating them, before we've read this scene, with what? Remembering somebody who's died, the passing of a loved one, a song for somebody who has passed. Okay, so plays will be organized in a very particular way into scenes and acts. Number 2, a play, this is the key one, isn't it, is composed of speech and dialogue. And the speech and dialogue of a play is set out differently than how we would organize speech and dialogue within a story. So if you just follow me over to here, it says that you will get the name of the speaker in capitals. So our first speaker is up there in capitals. Hello, Charlie. Charlie. We've got the colon and then his speech. So what Charlie would say. It's getting dark, Linda. Now, the thing to notice, no speech marks. Because the speech itself is within the format, the structure of a play, we know that it is spoken. So we don't need speech marks, okay? So Charlie, it's getting dark, Linda. Now your eye might already be drawn to number 3. Then that is the use of stage directions. Now stage directions are often indicated using italics or bracketed information. So we said we've got our character's name, Charlie, colon, and then it introduces his speech. It's getting dark, Linda. But we then have some stage direction material. So there's our brackets. Okay. Now Linda, so characters' names are always presented in capitals, but then it says Linda doesn't react. She stares at the grave. Now it's in italics, and that's a direction, a stage direction. Okay. That would be used to indicate or to inform or to direct the character as to what they might do or how they might speak. Okay, now some writers use very prolific stage directions, really detailed stage directions. Some playwrights use very little. They allow the work of rehearsal, the work of characterization to kind of direct the speech without having to point too much in the direction. Again, we're not looking in this example, but sometimes acts will begin with quite detailed stage directions to set the location, the scene of where they're at. This one doesn't use it, okay? So, but these are the 3 elements for us this week that I want us to secure. What makes a play a play? Its shape and its structure. It's reliant solely upon speech and dialogue. There is no additional description. And the use of stage directions. Now we're going to use these three elements to put into practice our first look at just the opening of the Requiem, page 110. There is more text that we look at this week, but we are just going to start here. And I'm going to ask you to do some work just on this section. So the first thing I want you to do is to work out the who. So using that idea that characters are introduced using what? Good, capitals. Who are the characters? So you're just going to list in your book under the subheading who, list the characters. You're going to identify using the stage directions, or maybe what people say, where the action is taking place. So where are we for the Requiem? Where are we for this final piece of the play? Using your reading of the stage directions and the dialogue, what are they in this place for? What's the reason and purpose? And can you work out, so this would be using inference, okay, working it out, who is the person they are there for? And finally, how are they, so for each of the characters you identify, could you tell me how they're feeling? Could you use the stage directions and dialogue to help you work out their feelings? Now, again, we're just thinking out loud on paper, so this is going to be note-taking. You don't need to use full sentences. Okay, so I'm just to be explicit, I don't know if I was. So we are only looking at the section of a play rather than the whole play, and we're looking at the end. So plot to spoiler, if you ever read the whole play, we've skipped right to the end. Okay, so what I'm going to ask is just that you pause and that you work through these tasks. I'm going to verbally go through them with you, but you're not going to see a written version of the answers because it's really important that you're able to do this for yourself. Okay, so just press pause. Use our list to go through, and then we're going to look and discuss some of those answers together in a minute. Okay, so who are our characters? So there's 4 who are presented to us using that capitalization, and we can look with our eyes down the side of the page. And who are our 4 characters? Right, good. So we have Charlie, we have Linda, we have Biff, and we have Happy. Remember what I said? 1949, an American playwright. So Biff and Happy are what we would call very traditionally American names of that era. Biff and Happy. For us, they probably sound quite strange, quite unusual. But Biff, Happy, and then we've got the more traditional Linda and Charlie. So could you work out where they were? Now, I said there was a clue in the stage directions. So we're looking for italics, we're looking for brackets. Now, look at that very first stage direction. Linda doesn't react. She stares at the grave. So where's Linda then if she's staring at a grave? Where are these 4 characters if they're staring at a grave? They're at a graveside. Okay, so where could we, if we were inferring a little bit more, so maybe this is a churchyard. It talks about a funeral. Okay, it also talks about the fact that it's getting dark. So it's the end of the day at a graveside. Okay, so that's where we are. Now, what are they in this place for? What reason and purpose? Okay, we'll look at that first because the who is a little bit harder. So we could, work this out hopefully. So she stares at the grave. So you're at the graveside. Okay, it's getting dark, Linda. How about it, Mum? Better get some rest, hey? They'll be closing the gates soon. Linda makes no move. Pause. Happy, deeply angry. He had no right to do that. There was no necessity for it. We would have helped him. Charlie grunting. Huh? Come along, Mum. Why didn't anybody come? It was a very nice funeral. But where were all the people he knew? Maybe they blame him. Nah, it's a rough world, Linda. They wouldn't blame him. I can't understand it. At this time especially, first time in 35 years, we were just about free and clear. He only needed a little salary. He was even finished with the dentist. No man only needs a little salary. I can't understand it. There were a lot of nice days. When he'd come home from a trip or on Sundays, making the stoop, finishing the cellar, putting on a new porch. When he built the extra bathroom and put up the garage. You know something, Charlie? There's more of him in that front stoop than all the sales he ever made. Yeah, he was a happy man with a batch of cement. He was wonderful with his hands. So, what are they in this place for? What reason, purpose? So, maybe the first reason, it's a grave, so they're there for a funeral. But what's the purpose of that funeral? And actually, by looking at the words, we get a sense of it. So, They're there to say goodbye. Biff, towards the end, there were a lot of nice days. They're there to remember. They're there to celebrate or mark the passing of somebody. Okay, so what reasonable purpose are they there for? So if you said it's a graveside, it's a funeral, give yourself a tick. But just to expand that a little bit, so the purpose of a funeral is to mark and remember the person. Requiem, yep, to sing for the dead, to sing a mass for the dead. And who are they there for then? Could you work it out? We know nobody else came. So the people that are here, because Paul Linda says, but where were all the people he knew? Why didn't anybody come? So these 4 people are the only 4 that came to his funeral. So that suggests their relationship to the person is quite strong. Now, let's have a look then. Charlie, it's getting dark, Linda. And Biff says, how about it, Mum? So we can immediately say Linda is Biff's mum. Okay, so we've got a relationship there. So, but Charlie, now, although Charlie seems to be looking out for Linda, come on, it's getting dark, Linda. It was a very nice funeral. How do we know he's not her husband? It's a very subtle reason. So hopefully you saw it. When Linda talks, she says, halfway down the page, I can't understand it. At this time, especially, first time in 35 years, we were just about free and clear. So Linda calls herself a we with the person that is passed. So what can we assume is that the we is her husband. So if that's her husband and Biff's her son, it suggests that the person that's died would also be the father to Biff. And the other 2 bits are very subtle. So I'll tell you. So we've also got Happy, who is his other son. So Biff's brother. That comes up in a minute. And we've got, or I should say next lesson. And we've got Charlie. So Charlie is a friend. So we've got 4 people that came to this funeral. The wife, 2 sons, and a friend. Okay, and what's their purpose for being there? Okay, their purpose is to say goodbye. Their purpose is to mourn, to grieve, and to remember. So how are they feeling about this? Now, there's the obvious, sad. But I want to see, could you identify any other feelings running through these characters? Now, a clue here is to use the stage directions to help you. And we'll start with the wife, the widow, okay, with Linda. So Linda doesn't react. She stares at the grave. She doesn't want to move. Now, they've already said that it's the end of the day and that they're trying to close the graves, the funeral park. They're closing the gates soon. So how is Linda feeling that she doesn't want to move? So she's feeling brilliant, sad, shocked. She's grieving. But also she says it twice, I can't understand. I can't understand it. So again, that strengthens that sense that maybe Linda is feeling shock and sad and grief. Now, the other obvious one that comes through the stage directions is one of the brothers. One of the brothers is actually feeling a very strong emotion that we might not expect at a funeral. Well, maybe if you watch a lot of soap operas, we might see this emotion more at funerals than we realise. But good, did you get it? Yeah, Happy. Happy is deeply angry. Okay, so we've got one son who is really angry. We've got a mother, Linda, shocked, in pain, but confused, doesn't understand what's happening or what's happened. We've got one son that what's happened has made him really angry. He had no right to do that. There was no necessity for it. We would have helped him. So why could somebody be angry in this way? And what does it mean that he had no right to do that? That his dad had no right to do what? There was no necessity for it. We would have helped him. What could have happened? Okay, setting up a lovely enigma to bring us into the rest of this Requiem tomorrow. So we've got an angry Happy, ironically. Happy is very angry. We've got Linda who's not reacting. She's kind of frozen in shock and in grief and confused. Now, Biff, the other son, how about it, Mum? Better get some rest, hey? They'll be closing the gates soon. Come along, Mum. There's a lot of nice days. So if Happy is angry, do you get a sense that Biff is angry or is Biff feeling something else? Well, he's definitely what? How about it, Mum? Ah, good. He's feeling, he's trying to take care of his mum. He's trying to look after her. So he still feels concerned for his mum. But there were a lot of nice days. He's also remembering his dad. He's trying to remember the nice days. He's trying to remember the good rather than the bad. So we've got Biff who's trying, who's maybe feeling responsible for his mum. He's feeling worried for mum. He's trying to take care of her. And he's doing that through talking about the nice days as well, trying to remember. And then again, we've got Charlie, a friend of the family. Again, where's his attention really focused? It's getting dark, Linda. It was a very nice funeral. Now it's a rough world, Linda. So actually, we've also got Charlie kind of like feeling responsible maybe for Linda, trying to take care of Linda and look after her. How are the two men feeling in terms of any signs of sadness? Not really. Now, this could be 1949. Men aren't able to show sadness, or that sadness would be seen as a weakness. But at this stage, they're definitely trying to keep some feelings under control, and by doing and taking care of Linda. So maybe they feel, both Biff and Charlie, that they feel responsible for Linda, they need to look after her. It's only Happy that's actually showing any emotion at this stage, like obvious for the boys, and that's that deep anger. He's really angry about something. So next lesson, we'll look at the next part of the Requiem and try and work out where these feelings are coming from. So at this stage, guys, you just need an answer to these questions. Who, where, what, and how are they feeling? And we'll look at the rest of this section tomorrow.